This video is sponsored by Sweetwater. Hi there, Perfecto Castro here and welcome to my channel. I hope you're having a great day. Okay, this video is going to be a lot of fun. You are going to hear a bunch of amps, pretty much all the amps in this side of my room. And then I'm going to show you how I'm sending my guitar signal to each one using the Radial JD7 guitar signal distributor. Let's go. Okay, so let me show you some of the amps that you will be hearing in this video. Let's start with this thing right here. Okay, so this is my Rev Generator 120 Mark III Revision A. So this is the model prior to the current Revision B. Okay, I love this amp. So I have this hooked up to my audio interface via the XLR outputs using the 2Notes software that is built in. And for when I need it, I can control it via this MIDI foot controller right here. Hard to do this one-handed. Okay, there, you can see the light switching. And right below it is the Marshall AFD 100, which you may have seen in my slash rig video a while back. So this amp is running into this UA aux, and then these outputs are connected to my audio interface as well, stereo, left and right. Now at the bottom is a Rev 2x12, which I have hooked up to this Invaders amp switcher right here, which I mainly use to choose which amps I get to play through that 2x12 at the bottom. For when I just want to play guitar and not really fire up the rest of my studio. Now for my markings, I can send these amps right here, either the Soldano SL030, the Marshall, or the Rev, into any one of these options right here. So I usually use just the cab. And then this is for the Torpedo Captor X, and this is for my Palmer analog cab sim, which sometimes gets used. And then speaking of the Captor X, that is that right there. And right now I have my Soldano SL030 hooked up to that one. Let's fire this up as well so that you guys get to hear it. And then for another Soldano flavor, this is the Astro 20, which I have running silently and is connected to one of my audio interface inputs. So I get to take advantage of the Astro 20's onboard IR loader. And so far we have 30 amps. So let's throw a clean amp in the mix. So this is my Rev D25. And again, XLR out is connected to my audio interface. And this is the amp I usually run my pedal demos into. So this wall has my mainstay amps that I use in regular rotation. And towards the back wall are my wildcards. Sometimes new amps, sometimes amps that don't get a lot of use. So you've seen this on my channel, this beast of an amp right here, the Friedman Jose Arredondo Tribute. I have it set here in the back because I've been filming a bunch with it in this part of the room. But that will find its way into the main rotation wall a little later on. And that is running through the Universal Audio aux as well, a second one, which I'm controlling with this, Barn 3 aux 3-button foot switch right here. This button is assigned to the aux compressor, then this one is to the aux EQ, and then this is for the aux delay. That way, I have control over the onboard features of the UA aux. And then those pedals you will see very soon. Okay, the Tone King Imperial preamp is here in the back because I am going to film a video running that thing into that thing very soon. So stay tuned for that. And then we have a Victory V30 Mark II, the Countess. This is the version before they renamed it to the Jack. And it is running into this Victory 1x12 right here. There's the Fender Bronco that I profiled in the Mooer GS1000 video. This is a future video, this monstrosity right here. We'll save that for later. And then pardon the clutter, I have the stands out because I've been filming in this area of the room. Okay, and then last of the amps, that's the Mooer F15i for quick practicing stuff. And then that's the Magnetone Baby M80, which I will be hooking up to the aux a little bit later on. and that is a Dr. Z Zrec Jr. and the Rev JL25, which I've been using as a sort of a mobile amp. I've been setting it up wherever I need it in the room. Bose S1 Pro Plus, which is also handy for modular demos and stuff. And then Junbi, who's totally uninterested. Okay, now let me show you my rack. So, top part is the Radial JD7 signal splitter, guitar signal distributor, split 7 ways. And this has been instrumental in sending my guitar signal to all of these amps. I needed a way to stay at my desk and switch amps quickly as I am filming, doing all my video stuff right here. And then these outputs are hardwired to the amps, so I can easily, engage which amps I want to play. And I can play up to 6 of them at once, and they each get recorded to their own tracks in my DAW. So this is essential. Now, typical YouTuber multi-amp setup involves an amp switcher of some sort, where they can take a bunch of amps and direct it to either a cab or a single IR loader or reactive load box like this universal audio aux. However, the problem with that setup is you can only play 1 amp at a time. And since I have guests over, sometimes we jam, right? So I didn't want to hardwire all my amps to just a single input. Having things this way makes more sense for my setup. Since all these amps go to their own respective tracks, I can always, plug my guest into any one of these amps and we can jam together using our amps of choice. And if I'm recording solo, I plug straight into the JD7's input, and I can pick and choose to whichever amp I want to send this guitar signal to, or I can send them to multiple amps at once and record them at once, and either choose which track sounds best during mixing or blend them together. That is something that you can't do with an amp switcher setup. Now, after the JD7 is my power supply, which is also a Radial Power 1. Okay, so I have everything hooked up in the back, and these are for incidental powers. And then next up are my audio interfaces. The top one is a PreSonus Quantum HD8. This is my workhorse. I control my monitor volume with this big blue knob right here. And then I will walk you through the input routings a little bit later on. Then next up is my PreSonus Quantum 2626, which has the rest of my amp outputs. And then below that is a PreSonus MP20. This is a classic mic preamp. I've had this I don't know, since 2007, I think, or maybe even as early as 2006. I recorded my 10-string album Comparison using this preamp. So it's a little piece of Perf Studio history right here. And then bottom is my Palmer analog direct injection load box for when I need it. Now let's take a look at the top. So this is where I put the pedals that I want to run into the front of any one of these amps. So now we have a Rick Weaver Effects Midnight Vibe. It's a very, very good pedal. A modern reimagining of the classic Univibe. And then this is the DBD, my latest signature pedal, which I'm using as a distortion boost as well as a clean boost. And then one of the JD7's outputs is also hooked up to this thing right here. So this is where I patch in the modulars or the IR-capable preamps. The Tone King used to occupy this space, but I need it for a video, so that's why it's in the back. And I'm featuring this Mooer GE200 Plus Li in an upcoming video, so that's why it is right here. And I think this is going to stay here for a little bit because I'm also using it as a Bluetooth receiver. That way I can just play a backing track on my phone and that will be recorded straight to DAW. I don't have to sync and mix later on. Okay, a little more odds and ends. Peterson strobe tuner right there. That is hooked up to the 7th output of the JD7. That way I have a quick handy tuning reference at any time, and I'm powering everything with a One Spot Pro. Now this thing right here is a Radial Stage Bug 6, which is a line isolator. Now the JD7 has its own Jensen transformers that provides line isolation, but it doesn't provide line isolation for all of the channels, right? So the first channel does not have that lift switch. And for some reason, I have a ground loop here in my studio that I can lift on these channels right here, but not on the first channel, which is why I have the first channel output going into this stage bug right here. And then I have that depressed. This way I have a switch to lift the ground should I encounter any noise from that output. So yeah, that is very handy. Big thanks to Sweetwater for sponsoring this video and for being such an awesome friend and supporter of my channel. As always, I will have Sweetwater affiliate links to most everything I'm gonna use in this video. So please drop by the video description and use these links to go gear shopping. Thank you so much for your extra support. Okay, so let me show you how I set everything up. Okay, so today's DAW is PreSonus Studio 1.7, and I put together a template where I assigned all my audio interface inputs to their respective tracks. So everything is armed and ready to record, but instead of switching input monitoring on my DAW, I'm going to use the Radial JD7 to send my guitar signal to the different amps on this wall. Okay, so first up is the dry guitar signal. Okay, so this is my Shabbat Guitars Lion Floyd Rose going straight into the JD7 and recorded onto its own track as a dry DI guitar signal. That way I have a clean guitar sound should I want to reamp later on. Now the next track is pretty much a duplicate of the dry untreated guitar signal, but this time I have the PreSonus Empire guitar plug-in in the inserts. So there's that. And then this is how this sounds. This way, if I don't feel like firing up any of my amps, I can still record guitar in Studio 1.7 and have a great sounding guitar tone to work with. Okay, now let's get into the next track, which is the Marshall AFD 100 going into the UA aux. So JD7 activate. Sounds just like a Marshall. And the effects that you're hearing is coming from the aux itself. I'm using the Sweet Childish preset on it. Oops. The next track is for the Palmer Analog Load Box, but I'm not using it for this video, so we're going to skip it. The track after that is the Rev G120. So I'm going to turn off the AFD output on the JD7. And let's see, I need to turn the camera all the way down there. And this is the on button for the G120. So I have my G120 set with the 2 Notes Torpedo Twin Tracker preset. That way I have this pseudo, doubled rhythm guitar track thing going on. Okay, next up is the SLO30 going into the 2 Notes Capture X. So these amps I tend to record dry, that way I can do more post-processing come mix down. And then the next track is the Astro 20. which is another flavor of Soldano. Now, it's not all dirty. I have one clean amp, and that is the Rev D25. Let me turn that on, and here we go. I already mentioned that this is my pedal platform amp, so let me kick in the DBD drive side. Or I can push it into edge of breakup using the boost side. Or I can turn on both sides and get some Dan Huffish lead tones. Oh, I forgot I have the midnight vibe. Here's how that sounds. Now, the last three tracks are assigned to my lines at the back of the room, right now connected to the aux that is connected to the Friedman Jose tribute amp. I'm not using it in this video, but I do have a dedicated video for the Jose, and I will link to that in the end screen of this one, so make sure to watch all the way through. Okay, this track right here is for my desktop mic for when I do talking head videos, and it's just recorded on its own track. And then the track before that records my direct inputs from a modeler or IR capable preamp. And for this video, since I have the GE200 Plus connected to it, I'm also using it as my Bluetooth playback. Yeah, it just makes it easier. However, I can run the guitar signal into this track if needed, and that is output number 1 on the JD7. Now, the best thing about this setup is that I can mix and match guitar tones. This way, if I'm demoing a guitar, I can instantly show you how it sounds like through the different amps, just as I have shown you today. And the other neat thing too is I can start combining different amps for tonal inspiration. That way, I don't have to, wait until mixed down before I can start playing around with the different tones. Okay, so here's an example. I'm going to activate the Marshall. That is actually the Marshall and the Moore at the same time. Without the Marshall. Okay. With the Marshall. Or I can even put in, let's say, the Astro 20. Or the G120. Or the distorted and affected Moore with a clean D25. Or let's say the D25 and the Astro 20. And I'm going to pan them left and right here in Studio One. So let's see, there and there. earlier I mentioned the importance of the ground lift switch and that I have a pretty bad ground loop situation here in my studio. Now let me show you how effective the JD7 is in removing that. So I have the lift button punched in, and as soon as I push it out, there it is. It's a nasty, digital computer noise. Okay. And I have the lift button punched in all of these JD7 channels. Now, another neat feature of the JD7 is the drag knob right here, which affects how your guitar pickups interact with the chosen amp. Okay, so I'm gonna go into the Soldano SLO30. So I'm gonna turn drag all the way down. So right now I have drag all the way down, and it is a nice dark and beefy tone for the SLO30. Okay, so now I'm gonna turn drag all the way up. It brought back some high-end, some sparkle, some presence to the guitar tone. That is also equally flattering. Now the effect is subtle, but it's enough to influence, how you approach playing. And since I work with a lot of guitars, I can also use the drag control to, better match that particular guitar's pickups with whatever amp I've chosen. Now we have one more button to check out on the JD7, and that is the 180-degree button, which is pretty much a phase reversal switch. This is really helpful if you're running 2 or more amps at the same time, and it just sounds funny. So here's the SLO30. I'm gonna add the AFD 100. Sounds neat, right? I'm gonna turn down the drag control. You get a warmer tone. And then here's what the 180-degree switch does. So now I have a guitar tone with more of a throaty quality to it. It's not exactly out of phase, but basically it's more of like comb filtering. Now I can play stuff like... Well, there you have it. That is the latest incarnation of my amp wall and how my life is made easier by the Radial JD7. Again, big thanks to Sweetwater for sponsoring this video and for making all these amazing gear available for us to enjoy. Don't forget to drop by the video description for my Sweetwater affiliate links and use these links to go gear shopping. Happy New Gear Day. And of course, if you dug this video, please give it a thumbs up, like, hit subscribe if you haven't yet, and don't forget to ring that bell. And let me know what you think of my multi-amp setup switching thingy. If you have any suggestions, please put them in the comments. Now here's a couple of YouTube recommended videos, so click to watch, then go grab your guitar and play something. You all know the drill. Practice makes perfecto. Cheers, guys.